I got to say, I have never felt less freedom in my entire life than when I am at an airport. And it's so infuriating, and it makes you wonder how much maybe we take some of that for granted. But you go to an airport and right off the bat, it's just a giant middle finger the entire experience, right? Like the baggage area where you go to check in, it's just a cluster no matter what. No matter what you do, it's everybody's first day at the airport. Like people are just, they're bringing in furniture, like they have no idea what they're doing. Go through the security line. And this one drives me nuts because it's supposed to be standardized, and it is, except it's not, because when I go to some airports, I have to do different things, even though I have pre-check, which is weird. And it's been better recently now that I've moved to Arizona. But man, sometimes flying out of DFW, I go through the line, and you got to take your laptop out of your bag. It's like, okay. And then I come back on the way home from wherever I'm flying, and I put my laptop out, and they're like, you don't need to take your laptop out of your bag. Okay, well, they told me I did in Texas. No, they didn't. You're right. You win. Awesome. Then they can pull you out for any reason at all and just dig through your stuff, whatever, and call it in the name of security. I get that, sure. But I feel like if we can privatize space travel, we should be further along than we are with being able to tell if someone's got something they shouldn't have in their suitcases. And this is the one that drives me the most nuts, is you can't bring a water bottle. Well, you can bring a reusable one, but you can't bring water or liquid through security, which is funny to me because they say that's because you could make something nefarious and cause harm to an airplane. However, you can bring a Bic lighter or a cigarette lighter on an airplane. So you can't bring a bottle of water on an airplane because that could be dangerous and you could explode the plane. However, you can bring a lighter on an airplane to light the plane on fire. So what went through my head with that was, why is that? And I'm not a conspiracy guy. I don't have a tinfoil hat. I don't think there's nanobots in the COVID vaccine. I don't think Maui fires were started to AI the city or whatever. But it is kind of weird that you can bring a lighter, but you can't bring water. And that makes me consider the amount of lobbying going on for big tobacco. And the funny thing is, when I was typing this up and writing this out, it autocorrected to Big Tabasco. And I think that would be awesome if everything behind the airports was not Big Tobacco. No, it was Big Tabasco that was not letting you bring water. And it was Big Tabasco that was charging $9 for a bottle of water as you walk through the airport. So that was pretty funny. But also, when you go through the airport, if you notice, and there's been recent articles and studies to show that they're putting longer and longer walkways in between gates at the airport, and that is so they can fit more commerce in between. So you have more stores in between, you have a higher likelihood of spending the money. And I get that there's some additional charges that go into bringing food and supplies to the airport as opposed to just a regular restaurant, or a regular convenience store or gas station. But you cannot tell me that the bottle of water that costs $2 at a 7-Eleven is going to cost me $9 because that extra $7 is needed in order to make up the difference for the labor and the gas and everything. Like, I'm not buying it. So that drives me nuts. And I don't know what to say about that. Also, you're walking down the walkway or hallway or whatever the hell it's called at the airport. And the little guy that's driving the golf cart, if you haven't noticed, they don't stop for anybody. And I love that they just take up the entire middle runway, walkway, hallway, whatever you call it. They're just flying down there, and you have two choices. You can get run your ass over, or you can step off to the side. I think that's great. So yeah, the whole feeling of freedom just sort of evaporates when you're at the airport, and your flight gets canceled. Too bad, right? Your gate is 1, now it's gate 101. Get over it. Make the change. One time when I went on a guy's trip in DFW going to Las Vegas, I got there a couple hours early. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have some bourbon. I'm going to hang out. It's a guy's trip. My gate changed 17 times in like 3 hours of where I was going to fly out. And if anybody's been to DFW airport, it's a big ass airport with like 5 or 6 major terminals. And there's a Skylink that you can take in between. So I'm sitting there having a bourbon, like, two stops down from my gate. And all of a sudden, I got to run to the other end of the airport. I'm on the SkyTram all the way across the other end of the airport. And then it tells me it's right back where it was, like 1 over. And then that just kept repeating for like 17 times. It was just outrageous.